What's up, y'all? Jordan Lugo here with Rogue Football on vacation this week, so not going to have the same level of video production, video quality, editing, all that fun stuff for you here. But we have got our Steelers 7-round 2024 mock draft. Really excited to get into it. Mike Tomlin, Omar Khan getting after it again this year in the NFL draft. What kind of draft haul can they pull off? We're going to take a look at it here today. New quarterback room, obviously. New offensive coordinator guy, Arthur Smith, who has put together some really strong outside zone, play action heavy offenses throughout his career. Will it be the same in Pittsburgh? Is that going to fit with what they currently have? We will find out, certainly. But Mike Tomlin was impressed with what Arthur Smith had to say in their interviews, certainly. I'm really hoping to see some Justin Fields, but even if you don't see Justin Fields early and often, I think Russell Wilson, too, he gives you more than what you have had at the quarterback position. So I think maybe not the most exciting move, maybe not the best last couple years for Russell Wilson, but I do think he has a chance to play some pretty good football for the Steelers, and incremental improvement at the quarterback position can massively upgrade an entire football team. And is Russell Wilson better than what you've had in Pittsburgh over the last couple years? In my opinion, the answer is a resounding yes, even if he isn't an upper echelon quarterback or even an above average quarterback right now. But yeah, I am really hoping to see some Justin Fields. I think that he could eventually potentially make some magic there in Pittsburgh, be a franchise quarterback, or at least be an above average starting quarterback who has electric playmaking moments, right? That's what you've seen from him in Chicago. I did predict that Justin Fields would end up in Pittsburgh. When I saw the Russell Wilson signing, wasn't feeling great about that, but it ended up happening anyways. So I'm excited for Justin Fields to get a new start. I was a big fan of him in the draft. I've been a big fan of him in the NFL. Obviously, has had some growing pains. Has not always had the best support around him. We'll see how it plays out. But regardless, I think the Steelers do have a better quarterback situation than what they have had in years past. You also added Van Jefferson and Quez Watkins at wide receiver. I think Quez Watkins is a sneaky good signing, right? I think that's the type of guy who can take the top off the defense. Got good length, got good speed. Of course, Cordero Patterson comes over with Arthur Smith, Weapon X. You can use him in a variety of ways in your offense and can be very effective. On the defensive side of the ball, you went and signed Patrick Queen from the division rival, Baltimore Ravens, the hated rivals for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Patrick Queen was interesting for me. He had a massive season last year. I was a little bit nervous about him, where he was going to land in free agency, because type of guy that didn't have the strongest start to his career. Then Roquan Smith, Baltimore Ravens traded for him. He comes in and he kind of really helps Patrick Queen play a lot better football, playing next to maybe the best linebacker in the game right now in Roquan Smith. So I was nervous about where he might end up landing. I don't think the Steelers have a great linebacker core outside of Patrick Queen right now. They do have some guys that have played some football, but I think that Pittsburgh is a good fit because he knows this team. He's played against this team a lot. They know him. They know his strengths and weaknesses. I think that with some of the talent that they have on the spine of their defense, at safety, at interior defensive line, I think Patrick Queen's going to be able to play some good football there. So I did actually like that fit for them, and they desperately needed linebacker, right? Deshaun Elliott at safety, helping out Minkah Fitzpatrick. I really like that move. Dante Jackson coming over to play opposite JPJ. You've got two quality outside corners now, in my opinion. Needs, I think, offensive tackle. Whichever side Broderick Jones is starting on, right? He's been playing some right tackle for them. I think he can definitely play left tackle, but you need another tackle, another quality tackle to round out this starting group of offensive linemen. I also think you need a center to really come in and solidify that spot. So that's a couple big needs, in my opinion, for the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into the NFL draft. I think wide receiver as well. You got rid of Deontay Johnson. I think you need someone else to come in and be able to take up a bunch of targets for you. Obviously, I mentioned you added Jefferson and Watkins. You have George Pickens, but I don't think that any of the additions are really going to be able to take or replace what you were getting from Deontay Johnson, not even in the aggregate, right? So I definitely want some wide receiver help. I want another linebacker to play next to Patrick Queen. Want some nickel. I think that you could definitely upgrade the nickel spot at defense. Steelers, they have $12.7 million in cap space right now, so they could still be a little bit active in free agency and sign some guys they feel like can be stopgap options to kind of round out their team. They have 7 draft picks in the NFL draft this year. 20 overall is the first pick for them. We're going to go ahead and get it popping here at 20 overall. A lot of different directions you can go. I strongly considered the other JPJ, Jackson Powers Johnson, and he has been kind of a very common mock to the Steelers, and it makes sense. They need a center. He's the type of guy that just kind of screams Pittsburgh Steelers. They've had a lot of great centers throughout their history as a franchise, and I think he could be the next great one. But when I look at the center position in this NFL draft, there's some guys I feel really comfortable with as starters that I think could be acquired later on in the draft. And I don't necessarily feel as good about the offensive tackle position. And one of the guys that falls to us here at 20 is Amarius Mims, Broderick Jones' former teammate from the University of Georgia. And I just look at what he could bring to the Pittsburgh Steelers and how that could create a real nice group of bookend tackles for you with Jones and Amarius Mims. He's one of the freakiest guys you're ever going to see out there on a football field in terms of his height, his weight, athleticism, length. He's only started 8 games. People call him a project, but you turn on the tape and watch this guy. He's not a project. This is the type of player that already has a good understanding of playing assignment sound football. He can certainly blow guys off the ball. He can bend at his knees. He's not a waist bender, so he's somebody that can play with some flexibility. Even though he's so tall, he can use some leverage, get out in space, and frame blocks up at a high level. And in pass protection, you see the hands high and tight. They usually land inside on the inside chest of opponents and kind of stalls them out very quickly. So I just think Amarius Mims, from a talent perspective, he might be the most talented tackle in this class. I mean, Joe Alt is amazing, right? But Amarius Mims, I think if he had started more football games, people would be talking about him in that same category. So I love the fit here. Obviously, I would love Jackson Powers Johnson as well. Would not knock that pick at all. But I think you can do a little bit more from a value perspective at center later on. And offensive tackle, you're talking about getting that 5th-year option, obviously addressing a premium position. I do have Jackson Powers Johnson rated a little bit higher than Amarius Mims, but overall, offensive tackle is a more important position, and certainly I think that you have a better chance of getting a starter at center later on in this draft than you do at tackle. That's just my opinion. At 53 overall, wide receiver, Ricky Pearsall, Slick Rick out of the University of Florida. He's actually caught passes from Jaden Daniels and Anthony Richardson, but this is the type of guy, great athlete, good size overall. He's going to give you effort as a blocker, but what you love about Ricky Pearsall, he can run, he can jump. He's a great route runner, great hip flexibility and quickness in and out of his breaks. Catches pretty much everything thrown his way, and he is going to come down with some of the most unbelievable catches you'll ever see. I mean, that Jordan catch, going up in between 2 defenders in a tight window, catching it, doing the Jumpman logo with one hand. That's one of the sickest catches you'll ever see. I think pairing him with George Pickens, I love that fit. I think he's a move Z/slot receiver. You move him around the formation, you can get a lot done with him. And again, he'll block, so I think he can definitely work out in an Arthur Smith style offense. At 84 overall, I have defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman, Michael Hall Jr. out of Ohio State, another freak athlete so far in this draft. We're just adding athletes that also are awesome football players. And Michael Hall, the reason you're adding him is interior pass rush juice, right? I think that you add him to the mix with what you already have, which you have some really good veterans. Obviously, you have Keanu Benton as well, a young buck, but I think that putting him in there as your interior defensive designated pass rusher just makes a ton of sense. Get him in there on these clear pass rushing situations and you juice up your pass rush. You already have great edge players, good interior defensive linemen as well. I just think that Michael Hall kind of sets that entire front over the edge in terms of their ability to create pressure, create penetration in clear pass rushing situations. And then at 98 overall, this is where we go get our center. Tanner Bortolini, a guy that, another insane athlete, great hands, so flexible. He's able to recover very, very well. He'll get into compromising situations at times, but because of his flexibility, his athleticism, he's able to recover. He's got good strength throughout his frame, even though he's not the biggest guy out there. Just an elite athlete. I think he's now your new long-term starting center, and so you have really fortified that offensive line for whoever's taking snaps, right? At 119, I mentioned I would like to upgrade at nickel. I love Jerrion Jones, another crazy athlete who's really good at football. Starting nickel from day one, guy who plays incredibly physically, but he flies out there on the football field. He's got quick feet, fluid hips. I just love the fit there. Playing nickel, in between Dante Jackson and JPJ out there, I think it'd be fantastic. Then at 178, I mentioned linebacker as well. I think this is a good spot for it. Linebacker Edifon Olufashoyo out of Washington, probably butchered his name, but I think he can probably start next to Patrick Queen. He's got a good mass on his frame, very good proportional length. He can fly, like he ran incredibly fast. He jumped high. The tape is very good overall. I think that he is a aware run defender, a guy that can survive in coverage as well. I just love the movement skills, love the way he sees the game. I think that he could be a potential day one starter. Getting him on day 3 of the draft to start next to Patrick Queen, I would love it. And even if he's not a day one starter, I definitely think he is a long-term starter for you. And then at 195 overall, the final pick here, wide receiver Joshua Cephas. You've got length, release package, quick accelerator, good throttle. He can, tamper his speed up and down. Reliable hands, very reliable hands. I think he's the potential wide receiver 3 for this team, if not immediately, long term. You do have some veterans that you brought in, like I mentioned, but I think that a long-term pairing or grouping of George Pickens, Ricky Pearsall, Joshua Cephas could potentially be just a really nice trio for the Pittsburgh Steelers to roll with long term. I look at this draft. I think this is the type of class that really could set the Steelers up for even more sustained success and immediate success. You're getting elite athletes at every spot pretty much, and great football players, guys that know how to play the game, guys that really kind of remind me of classic Pittsburgh Steelers players. So I think they have a chance to really compete this year in the playoffs even more than they have in years past, with better quarterback play, certainly, the OL upgrades, rounding out the defense, completing this wide receiver room after you lose Deontay Johnson. I love it. I think that Pickens can play bully ball. I think that Ricky Pearsall, Joshua Cephas can both create separation at a high level and complement what he does. So I would love to know what you guys think. If you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, please drop your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoy the content here, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Y'all have a good one.